Gotta let it go, man. Hey, everyone. Welcome to What Are the Odds? I'm your host, Robert Ferringo, with my co-host, Raphael Esparza. We are two of the top football handicappers at the top football handicapping site anywhere in the country, docsports. docsports.com. Click on the link down below in the description, and we will give you $60 free to use towards any handicapper, any package, any sport, anything you want. You got $60 to use it at docsports. You are welcome. Take advantage of that. Also, we have a new promo code for the month of August. It's AUG10, AUG10 for the month of August. Happy August to you, Raphael. I don't know if you're as happy as I am to see July in the rearview mirror, but good riddance, July. We should have known you. Also, we have, and I'm sure my producer Lenny has it queued up, something about YouTube Premium. There's the Indian Cowboy package for $19.99 a month. There's the better package for $49.99 a month. I'm kind of joking about it, but that premium package on YouTube gets you 3 picks every day from a variety of handicappers in a bunch of different sports. It's actually like a ridiculous value. So the link is in the description down there. So take advantage of that as well. So, all right, we got the bills paid, Raphael. Let's get down to some football. It is football season now. Hall of Fame game kicked off. It is officially, for real, no joke, football season. So today we're going to be talking about the Big Ten Conference. We're going to do conference championship odds, as well as season win total over under. Okay, first question, Raphael, is it just dumb? Like, does it annoy you? Are you interested in it? Like, when people talk about what's the best conference in college football, like, what's your take on that discussion in general?
Oh, I poke the bear with the SEC. I poke it and poke it and poke it because you know what? Big Ten's looking for a three-peat this year. So I poke the bear because I'm tired of, we played the best conference. We played the hardest schedule, blah, 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 blah. So I poke the SEC bear as much as possible. This year, I mean, there's some interesting, I'm sure we'll dissect the SEC, so I don't want to go too far into it. But the one thing I want to talk about the Big Ten, man, a lot of love in Penn State coming into this football season. Yes, if you look at their roster, yes, if you look at that, wow, they have some talent. They always have linebackers. We just call it linebacker U. That's Penn State always has linebackers coming out. But are you really going to put all your coin on them to win a ship? I don't know if I can roll that dice.
Kind of have to prove it first, right? And, to your point about the SEC is that, like, for me, it's mind-numbing. I'm in Atlanta. I'm surrounded by SEC people or whatever. So the whole thing, like, what conference better? Like, I don't care. That's like childish argument. Like I'm in this for business, right? Like, I'm trying to make money. And I will say that, like, I did notice almost 10 years ago, I'd have to say, that the SEC started to get way priced out of the market. The SEC was not this dominant beast like everyone pretended like it was. It wasn't like they were playing another sport down here and the rest of the country was terrible. You know when the SEC really like took that next step? When they started rating the Big 12. Like, frankly, if we could go back and undo a lot of the conference realignment and give us a full stock Big 12, full stocked Pac-12, full stock Mountain West, go back to where we were in like maybe 2008 with the conferences. Again, the Big 12 was nasty when Oklahoma was rolling and Texas was rolling and Oklahoma State was winning 10 games every year. Like, I don't know. You can't go back. We got to move forward, though. So we're going to start with the team that you brought up. Not interestingly, one of the favorites to win the national championship, Raphael, but not the favorite to win the conference. Not the book that I saw. That's Penn State. They have a season win total over under at 10.5. But their odds to win the Big Ten are plus 240 behind Ohio State. What say you about Penn State heading into this season?
Well, I did a show this morning, and they asked me why is Ohio, if all the love is on Penn State, and there's some love on Oregon as well, why is Ohio State, why is OHIO the favorite to win the conference? And you know why? It's money. It has nothing to, I don't care what the last name on the back of the quarterback jersey or who's holding the clipboard yelling at the players at practice. Sometimes money dictates who the favorite is. And this one's a perfect example. There's so many OHIO bettors all over the United States that are going to push this one up. So yes, do they deserve to be the favorite? Money-wise, yes. Talent, I don't think so. I still think Penn State and Oregon are just as equal talented-wise. But when you're looking at money, when you're setting futures, that's why they're the favorite.
Yeah, to your point, to expound on that, like right now, Texas is the favorite to win the national championship. It doesn't mean that they are the best team or that they even have the most probability. I heard one sportsbook manager say that like 40% of all the futures tickets, the championship tickets that they have taken this year have been on Texas. That's why Texas is the favorite to win the national championship. It's not because the odds makers think they're the best team. It's because right now they are the biggest liability in the market for the sportsbook. So they have to adjust those numbers. I mean, Texas is the same thing, kind of like this thing with Penn State, right? It doesn't jive. Texas is the favorite to win the national championship. They are underdogs on the road in week 1 at Ohio State. So that just goes to show you that the futures market, maybe more than anything else in football betting, is, not immune to the ebbs and flows of the money, where it's coming in. And that's why these numbers are going to go there. So,
well, on Penn State's total season wins, there's minus on the under at 10.5. You can get anywhere between minus 125 all the way up to minus 140 and see that. That's, I think, because the bettors don't trust Penn State to go over that level. Doesn't mean they don't have the talent, but we all know Franklin and how he coaches and how they play in big games. I don't think the under money's coming in because they just don't believe they got the talent. I just don't think they believe in Penn State, the team itself.
It's interesting because I noticed that on the majority of these teams that everything's juiced to the under, that you're getting plus money value on the majority of the teams in the Big Ten to go over their win total. So Penn State is tied with Ohio State and Oregon, who we'll get to next, but Penn State, 10.5 wins. Okay, you brought it up. They are 0-7 under James Franklin again in their last 7 games against Ohio State and Michigan. Okay, this year, are they this year's Ohio State? That's what people are claiming them to be. All right. A lot of returning starters, a lot of guys passed on the pros, few impact transfers, veteran quarterback. Let's put aside the hype. Let's put aside the national championship hype. Let's put aside James Franklin's track record. Let's just focus on this team, this here and now, and these players. What do you like and not like about Penn State?
I like their defense. And anybody who talks about Penn State, that's the first thing they usually say. When was the last time you said, this quarterback for Penn State could win the Heisman, or this quarterback's really, you don't hear that. So I'm always looking at A, their defense, B, their linebacking core, and then their run game. If they can run the ball and those two things, that's the first thing I look at when I look at Penn State. But I just can't keep my thoughts and eyes off the head coach's name when I think they're going to make that next step. You nailed it. And everything that is coming back, everything that you just said a couple minutes ago was dead on. But Franklin is still the head coach, and I can't trust him to say, you know what, I got 11 wins. I'm going to take the plus money at 10.5. I'm going to take to win the Big Ten. I'm going to take them to win the ship because of Franklin.
Okay. I don't disagree with you. However, just to be devil's advocate here, 2 names, Jim Knowles and Andy, I'm going to butcher it, Kolenicki, the offensive coordinator from
I think you nailed that.
That came over last year was his first season. So this is now year 2 under his scheme. And Jim Knowles, I mean, he's one of the best coordinators in college football. Like,
that was a great pickup.
Penn State has allowed an average of, I think, 15 points a game over the last 2 years with him as a defensive coordinator. Like, think about that for a second. So James Franklin, yes, he has come up short pretty much his entire career in big spots. He beats the teams that he should. He loses to the teams that he should. Okay. But the brain trust around him, just like Chip Kelly, really was a difference maker last year, I felt like, for Ohio State. Right? Like, I don't think they win the national championship without his offensive innovation and the way he was able to use those fantastic pieces that they have. That maybe this year, maybe it's not about Franklin. Maybe it's about the systems that his coordinators have in place. and we will see that. So, okay, 10.5 means that they can lose 2 games. Now, the 2 biggest games on their schedule, they get Oregon at home, monster game, September 27th. Even better than that is Penn State has a bye week before that game. I think they're doing the whiteout there. So that's their Super Bowl game. So have to assume, and I believe that they are like 5-point favorites, 5.5-point favorites in the preseason betting market in that game. So let's assume, are we okay to assume that they're going to win that game, Raphael?
They should. I mean, I think they slowed down Oregon's speed. I think if there's any team in the Big Ten's defense can slow down Oregon's speed, I think it's Penn State, because their linebackers are fast and their safeties are really fast. So I think that can slow them down. I think they can. If I get anything 5 or less, depending on how Penn State starts the season off, that's something I'm going to look at, because I was really big and shocked at the same time last year on Oregon. I thought Oregon would be okay, the travel difference, going all these Big Ten games and stuff like that, but they didn't really show anything, I guess, because Nike can get bigger planes or more oxygen in and stuff. I don't know. So it didn't look different to me, but I think talent-wise, they're a little bit different this year than last year. So again, I think Penn State, if they can start off with some easy W's before that game coming off the bye, 5 points or less, I would probably look at the Nittany Lions.
Now, they also get a bye week before their game at Ohio State. Ohio State will be coming off a bye as well.
Don't they always have a bye week after Ohio State? I was trying to look at old magazines. I couldn't find them.
Before.
I'm sorry, before.
Yeah. Yes, I believe they adopted, again, like recent within the last 10 years when we're talking about an old rivalry like that. I think they adopted more of that SEC model where Alabama and LSU always had bye weeks before they play. Like Florida and Georgia had bye weeks before the cocktail party and all that.
Okay.
So
that's what I thought.
So, okay, 10.5. You like the over, you like the under here?
It's all about that game. It's all about Oregon. If they win Oregon, I think they easily get the 11 wins. So I think they beat Oregon. So even though I hate Franklin, I think this is the year I have to eat crow. I think this might be his year.
I wouldn't touch this number. I'm with you. I wouldn't touch this number. They got to prove it. I feel like we're getting pinned against the public a little bit here because there is such a crush of talk about Penn State as national championship contender, all this stuff. So I don't think we're going to be getting a lot of good value, especially early on in the season with Penn State. So I wouldn't touch the number. But if I had to, gun to the head, say something, I think I would take the under. I do think that they're going to beat either Oregon or Ohio State. But 2 games on the schedule that really scare me that could be potential trip-up games. They go to Iowa, who I really like this year. And the week after they play at Ohio State, they're back home, but they play Indiana. Okay, Curtis Ignetti is going to have that game. That's a bigger game for Indiana looking at their schedule than it is for Penn State. If Penn State gets amped up, because again, they'll be coming off a bye, 2 weeks to prepare for that monster battle with Ohio State. If they lose that game, do they have a letdown the following week as Indiana? Are they going to get as up for Indiana as they do for Ohio State? I don't. I just think that those are 2 potential landmine spots for Penn State. So I think I would err on the other. Another team with a 10.5 win total, the favorite at plus 200 to win the Big Ten is Ohio State. They only have 9 starters back. That doesn't really matter for Ohio State because they are just a factory. It's all about Julian Sayin, don't you think? The redshirt freshman quarterback that's coming in. What are your first impressions on the defending national champions?
I think talent-wise, I think they're at the same. They pick up some nice transfer players in. Like I said, you really can't. Returning starters really don't mean as much as they did before. Now you just keep on replacing them with new signees. So I don't really look at that. I still think their offense is going to be intact, like we saw them in the second half of the season to win the ship. I think their defense might be a little bit lacking. So I think the offense is going to have to carry them. I think we see some more over games this year with Ohio State because I think their defense will probably start off slow. So I'm looking for over games on Ohio State.
For this Ohio State team and for this number, not as much for them to win the Big Ten, obviously. But for their season win total and just kind of set the tone, it's really all about that opening week game against Texas, right? Yeah. And what are kind of your initial thoughts about that situation, that number. I believe they're still a 3-point favorite in that game over Texas. But just talk to me about that Texas game and what you think about that in terms of setting a tone for the Buckeyes.
I'm just going to sit back and watch because there's 2 games. I'm just going to sit back and watch. I think seasons can just go haywire after those games. The Texas game, Ohio State, and Clemson and LSU. I think both of those games can eliminate 4 teams, I think, that can make the playoffs. I think some of those losses could just be a train rail and stuff like that. So for that game, I'm thinking Texas, but at the same time, this is Eli's first big game. Or not Eli. I'm sorry. I keep on saying Eli.
The other man.
Yeah. The other man. This is his first really true big game with his name being a limelight all summer long, knowing that he's the Heisman favorite, blah, 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 blah. So I'm very cautious. Those 2 games I'm not touching. I don't care what happens. I'm not touching those 2 games.
We saw Michigan have a little bit of a letdown. Now, that was a different scenario. They lost their head coach. They lost Harbaugh. They lost a lot of talent as well. But, they only went 8-5 last year after winning the national championship. Do you think, is there a realm, is there a possibility here where Ohio State, maybe they don't drop all the way back to 8-5. I think that would be extreme. Yeah. But where they lose the Texas game and they end up only going 9-3, missing the playoffs, and just going to a good bowl game. Disappointing by Ohio State standards, but just kind of an average run-of-the-mill college football season. Do you think what's more likely in your mind that will happen, or that they will be a contender again, make it back to the playoffs, and have a chance to defend their title?
I think a 9-3. I mean, it's so hard to, I don't want to say repeat, but have that same kind of magical season. They bring you home a ship. So I would think 9-3 on this one. And I'm not saying Day's going to get fired because he probably added more years to his contract for winning a ship, even though he was really, really hot last year coming into that one. But I can see a 9-3 record for them.
Okay, they play Texas. The other big game on their schedule, which they also get at home, is November 1st, that game against Penn State. Do you have them winning both those games? Do you have them losing both those games? Do you have them splitting those games?
Split. I have them splitting. I think they beat Penn State.
But lose to Texas.
Yeah, but lose to Texas.
Early. Okay, which leads us to, because they can only lose 2 games, if you like this total. They got to go to Washington, to Illinois, at Wisconsin, and then they end at Michigan, who they've lost to 4 times in a row. And I'm sorry, they're not losing to Michigan again this year. So let's just straight that out. But still, 4 relatively difficult road games. Do they lose any of those, do you think?
I think they'd be tight games. I don't see them losing to Washington. I'm not 100% sold on, I don't even want to say the W name, just in case the boss is listening. So I don't think that's the game. So I don't see them struggling. Now, I see them struggling in nail-biting games at home. Lately, the shoe has not been home cooking relaxation games. They've been having some tight, close-knit losses at home. So I would think some of their home games that we've already talked about will be a little bit more nail-biting than their road games.
I kind of agree with you. I think the thing that's bailing Ohio State out a little bit this year is they do have a relatively easy schedule compared to some of the other Big Ten teams. I think there's going to be value betting against them, against the spread, against those inflated numbers that the national champion. But I don't see them losing a ton of these games. I would say this though: if you were thinking about making a futures play on Ohio State's season win total, don't. You don't need to. You don't need to tie up your money for 5 months. If you like them to go over, that means they're 10.5. That means you probably have them winning against Texas, right? So just bet the Texas game. Don't tie your money up for months. Now there is a world where they lose to Texas and then run the table, but you're talking about giving away that first game and then basically them hitting 11 straight games, like an 11-game parlay. It's just not smart money management. So instead of bet, and if you don't like Ohio State, if you like Ohio State under, you think that they're going to regress like Michigan did, same thing. Just bet Texas, on the money line in week 1 and do that. Do you think that that's a better approach for bettors on the season win total rather than, like I said, locking their money up for 4 months at the books?
Yeah, I mean, unless for some reason you get 10.5 over more than like plus 110. If you can get plus 115 or something like that, then maybe look at it that way. But then just bet the first game or bet to make the playoffs. Bet it that way instead of the 10.5. So, because if they win their first game, I don't hate to say shoe in unless something's a bad hiccup or an injury. Making the playoffs is going to be a much easier for voting wise if you beat Texas.
Yes, 100%. So, okay, the third team with a 10.5 win total, the third favorite in here is Oregon, plus 275 to win the Big Ten. 10.5 is that number. Thoughts, and which way are you leaning on that season win total?
I think that this is a perfect 9-3 record. I think the Ducks are not the same team that they had last year. I think their defense is going to be a little bit weak this year. I still think they're going to have speed, and that speed on offense is going to bother some teams like Iowa, Wisconsin, all these other teams that have not bolstered their defense speed wise. But I'm just not 100% sold on Oregon this year. I can't believe when I say that. I'm buying more Penn State stock than I would Oregon stock, which normally it's the other way around.
Does any of that have to do with confidence or lack thereof in Dante Moore, the transfer quarterback from UCLA?
Yep.
You're not a fan of his?
Not a fan of him as well.
Okay. They did have a lot of close wins last year, which worries me a little bit. But I actually agree with you. I kind of like the under in this one. I can definitely see them losing 2 games, if not 3 games. They are a younger team. I think that this could be one of those take a small step back for a big step forward next year type of things. And again, it says there's too many spots where they could potentially trip up. That week 2 game when they host Oklahoma State, okay, they're going to be a big favorite in that game. I'm not saying they're going to lose that game. I'm not. I am saying that that's a little bit of a tricky spot, though. Okay, Mike Gundy has always been a great underdog coach. He has brought in like 43 transfers into Oklahoma State. He had his first losing season since his first season in Oklahoma State. His first losing season in like 20 years last year. So we kind of don't know what Oklahoma State is going into that. That's going to be kind of a tricky game, I think. I think Oregon's going to be a huge favorite with a lot of new moving pieces. They also go to Penn State. The week after, the key thing about that game at Penn State is that comes the week after they play Oregon State. That's their Civil War. That's their big rivalry game. Now, they're going to beat Oregon State. They're better than Oregon State. But how much energy do they have to expel in that rivalry game before flying across the country into Happy Valley to play one of their biggest games of the year? They host Indiana, who's tricky. They got to go to Iowa. And the key for me, why I like the under here.
That game in Iowa scares me. That's one of the reasons why I like the under towards that game in Iowa, because Iowa can make it an ugly, slow pace type of game. And that's not even close to Oregon's Oregon style. And Oregon doesn't have that much depth. If they have any kind of running back injuries, even a quarterback depth, if you look at it, go get Phil Steele's College Football Magazine. There's no depth whatsoever on there. So they're really weak on depth.
Yeah. And again, the thing that clinched it for me, I think one of their old Pac-12 foes are going to get them. I think that they're going to be like a 1 or 2 loss team late in the season. And then the last 2 weeks of the year, they host USC and then they go to Washington, their other big Pac-12 rivals. They're going to lose one of those games. One of those 2 teams is going to knock Oregon out of the playoffs. That is my prediction. So I definitely like the under on Oregon there. Again, we mentioned them already. Michigan, 9.5 is their season win total, plus 750 to win the Big Ten, which I think we both agree they don't have the horses for that.
Yeah.
One that is still living off that national championship from 2 years ago. Took the notable step back. They do have 14 returning starters or guys with starting experience that transferred in. But what are your thoughts and expectations for Sharon Moore here in year 2?
Yeah, I'm just not sold on this Michigan team. You nailed it. They're still riding that high of national championships. They're still riding the high of beating Ohio State, not once, but twice. So I think that's the reason why I don't have that much love. The total season win the under was it 9.5. The juice is minus 170. People, that's telling you right there that the bettors just don't like them. I can see an 9-win season. I'm more closer to 8 than I am 9.
And again, the sports books aren't going to move that number, are they? No. They would not move it down to an 8.5 because they don't want to risk a chance of getting middled right there, right? So that tells you all you need to know about what the expectation should be for this team. The books, by putting the juice there, are saying, please don't bet this. Stay away. We don't want to take your money on this game. And when it comes to Michigan, again, I still don't know about Moore. I still think the jury is out on him. He was handed a team last year that had like 9 starters back on defense, like a loaded championship caliber defense. and some pieces on offense. Now, everybody expected them not to be as good and not to be able to defend, but they lost 5 games. Like, who is this guy? We don't know who this guy is as a coach. We don't know if they're going to be any good or maintain their status at the top of the Big Ten with the influx of Pac-12 powerhouses that have come in for me. And again, the schedule is ridiculous. I love the under. This is one of my favorites for them. Week 2 at Oklahoma. They have to play Nebraska on the road. They have to go to USC. Their rivalry game against Michigan State is at Michigan State. That's one of only 3 true home games that Michigan State, who I think will be a little better in year 2, still not very good, but that's like a Super Bowl game for Michigan State right there. So that game's on the road. And then they have Ohio State at the end of the season. So, that's 5 losable games on their schedule. And that's, not even to say if they got upset by a Wisconsin or someone like that, or a Washington or something like that. So
they're under at -175. I'll stick with the Big Ten. Is the same reason why the sportsbooks want no over action with USC, whose total season win is 7.5. So we'll jump on that one. It's the same thing. If you're looking to bet that, I mean, yes, if you look at USC's schedule, they avoided a lot of big key games on the road. Their home schedule, I think, is pretty winnable, but they don't have that big road game that's going to say, this could be their 4th loss or their 3rd or 4th loss. So that's the reason why the books have them at 7.5 -180 over at Bet365, and FanDuel has -175 on the over.
Well, you brought them up, so let's stay with them. Thoughts on USC? Are you buying into them turning the corner this year, or no? Like, Lincoln Riley just doesn't have it. Great coordinator, maybe shouldn't be the head man type of thing. Like, is he a Peter Principle?
I think they turn the corner, but not completely. They're right there at the corner. I think they're going to be much improved last year. I think their offense is going to carry them this year. I'm still skeptic on their defense, which is normally lately USC's defense has carried the offensive load. Maybe especially Caleb Williams last season, when he was just didn't want to be there. You could tell he didn't want to be there.
I'm not prone to doubt an offensive mastermind like Lincoln Riley when it comes to stuff like this. But what did you think? Do you think he made the right decision by basically picking and sticking with Jaden Mailava over Miller Moss, who went to Louisville?
I do. I mean, because he said it early. He picked his guy early. We didn't have to hear back and forth. He picked him and he stuck with him. And so I kind of agree with that.
Okay, we mentioned that this number is juiced to the over. Do you think that is wise guys looking at what happened to USC, looking at some of the peripheral numbers for USC's season? They only went 7-6 last year, but they had some brutal losses. They lost to Michigan. They had Penn State beat, and they lost that game. The Notre Dame game, which was a massive loss for me. That was one of my biggest plays in college football all last year. They threw the back-to-back pick sixes in a game when they were, 35 yards away from tying that game up in the 4th quarter. Instead, they throw a pick 6, and then they throw another pick 6 on the next possession. They had close losses to Washington and Minnesota. But remember, this is also still the team that beat LSU in the opener. I mean, tough schedule, close losses. So the wise guys looking at this and tabbing them as a positive regression candidate, or how much of this is just USC getting the name love, their proximity to Vegas, and where they're taking action from the fanboys there? Like, explain to me why this is juiced so high towards the over.
I would say fandom only small and Vegas only small. It's a perfect example. I talked to someone that we know deeply, and about 5% of betting actions coming out of the state of Nevada now these days. So you can't use that as references. I think they're turning the corner just because of, you said, their blowout losses. Some of those losses that were bad, they just, gave up 2 pick sixes. Are you really going to try hard after that one? I just think the season got away from them, and they pretty much knew it. I think this year, with hopefully a better offense and a defense that can stick around, I think that's why money came in. Yes, USC is going to be USC, but USC is not like Texas and Ohio State now these days. Yes, USC money is still, they're Hollywood, but not Hollywood betting.
Okay, staying on that point, another number that jumped out at me in this conference is USC is only 16-1, plus 1,600 to win the championship. That has them as the 5th favorite. Now, Illinois and Indiana have higher, who we'll talk about next, have higher season win totals, but lower odds to win the title. Again, is that USC just?
That's UFC love. That is anytime futures is mostly UFC. I would say I hate to use the word fandom, but UFC love.
Okay, that's what I was wondering is it USC love, or is it the books looking at this being like, okay, if USC is good, they could be really good. And they would have a chance. They, if we think they're going to go over, maybe it's not because they win 8 games. Maybe it's because they win 10 and make it to the Big Ten championship. Do you think that is a realistic on the spectrum of possibilities for USC this year, that they could make that leap to the Big Ten championship game? Or no, is this going to be another fits and starts and stops, kind of what we've seen out of them the last few years? Because it is year 4.
I don't know if it's going to be that big of a leap.
No, you don't think they'll be able to make that big of a leap?
Not that big of a leap that they're going to be in talks of college football playoff and stuff like that. Now, you mentioned Indiana, Illinois, and then mentioning UFC. If you're a football bettor, and you're looking at the sheet, are you going to put money on USC football or Indiana football? That's like saying, are you going to bet Indiana basketball or are you going to bet UFC basketball? So
Sure.
I think that has a lot to do with it. Even though I cashed a lot of great tickets last year with Indiana, I just don't see the same Hoosier team this year.
Okay, well, let's jump right to them because the win total is 8.5. All right. Which seems high. They lost a lot. Like Curtis Rourke, their quarterback, was awesome last year. He was awesome in the MAC. He was awesome for them. And I understand that they had a really easy schedule last year. I get all that. But they dominated teams. Like, they absolutely demolished the teams that were on their schedule. So you can't say that it was like some fluky miracle run to the playoffs. Like, they kind of proved that they could play a little bit. And even losing to Notre Dame in their first playoff game. Well, Notre Dame went on to the national championship game. So, like, that's not a bad loss. And we saw other teams get blown out in the playoffs. So, much tougher schedule relative to one of the worst schedules in the country. And they do have some other indicators suggesting that they will take a step back. But this win total is still at 8.5. Is that too high for you?
Yeah, I really thought this is one of his. Again, I did another interview. This is when I missed the old days. Now I'm an old man, get off my lawn. I really like the days when you could get a 7 and an 8. Yeah. Now everything has a half a point on there. This is a perfect example where this should have been 8. That's it. If you push, here's your money back. I think 8.5 is a tad high. I wish the books would have posted an 8.
Okay, let's stay there for a second. Explain to me why that is the case now, because I'm with you. I remember when season win totals used to be flat numbers, not with the half. Since the majority of betting is done online, where you don't have to deal with tickets and guys coming to the windows and stuff like that, and refunding bets, like why is it that more online books or e-books don't have that flat number, since it's nothing for them to refund a push? Like, wouldn't it make more sense that there would be flat numbers on these season win totals than everybody going into the half? Like what is it going on behind the scenes that is spurring this half on every win total?
Books and customers hate pushes. Mostly customers, because we're in a generation. I'm talking to your generation who has kids now these days, Ferringo. Their generation. Everyone got a participation. Everyone says they're great. Everyone's going to college on a scholarship. Everyone's doing this. And then when something happens and they either get a push or a no, they flip out. So that's why most books hate to put that in there. I myself hated pushes. When I worked in Vegas, I hated a push because you know what? Yep. You have to catch those tickets and give them all their money back. So it takes forever.
That I understand. Yeah, that I understand. When you're dealing with physical tickets and physical money, I can understand it, but since that's not the case now, I would think that it would.
If I owned my own book, operation online book, I would do numbers. And if you want to move it, instead of the 20 cents or 25 cents, if you want to buy a half a point, I would charge 50 cents. Like if you're going to move my number, you're going to pay for it. So, but I don't have enough money to open up my own book.
Well, if you're looking for investors, you let me know. So 16 starters back with experience for Indiana. Not the same team, but still a pretty good team. I feel like you're going with the under on these guys at 8.5. See, I'm going to go the other way. If I'm going to make a mistake on Kirk Cignetti, it's going to be backing him. Don't love this Indiana team by any stretch of the imagination. Again, it's all about Fernando Mendoza, the transfer they brought in from Cal. Can he duplicate what Rourke did? But how much of that was Rourke? How much of that is the system that they run? I don't know. We'll find out. But for me, Cignetti has been such a great bet. He's been so good over the last. He went 10-3 against the spread last year with Indiana. Counting his last 5 years at James Madison. So over the last 6 years, this guy is 50-25 against the spread in college football. That's ridiculous. So if I'm going to make a mistake on this guy, it's going to be that I think the sportsbooks still haven't adjusted enough to how good of a coach that he is. Looking at their schedule, I think they can get to 9 wins. I think they'll lose early enough in the season where they will never be a factor to get back to the playoffs. But I could see them, closing out the season strong, winning 4 of their last 5 games, 5 of their last 6 games, something like that, and getting over this season.
Well, one thing you mentioned, I think the odds makers are going to be cautious putting up numbers because of how good Indiana cashed tickets last year and how good the head coach was since the James Madison days. So you may be getting different numbers than we would have got last year because I think the books got crushed last year on Indiana game. So keep an eye out for that to be probably a lot of adjusted numbers just because of what the Hoosiers did last year.
Well, they definitely did, and especially early in the season when they're playing that SEC schedule, which I loved that thing. Old Dominion, Kennesaw State, Indiana State, all at home. Those are going to be ridiculous numbers. It's 30 plus, closing near 40 for some of those games. Like they are going to jack up the numbers on Indiana here, but very important game for them. Huge game in the Big Ten race. Just one of the bigger games in the Big Ten this year is that Week 4 home game, September 20th, when they host the next team that we're going to talk about, Illinois. Illinois is the other team with an 8.5 win total, plus 3,300, 33-1 to win the Big Ten. Look, one of the most experienced teams in the country, brought back 19 starters, and that's like a legit 19 starters. That's not, we brought in transfers from other schools that started there, so we're going to count them as returning starters. They brought back everybody. I think they brought back the most returning production in college football. So it is the same team for all intents and purposes that won 10 games last year. Brett Bielema, he's a guy we've seen do big things in the Big Ten before, and he's got his best team. Should we be buying a little bit into this Illinois hype here? Not as a national championship contender. Nobody's going there. And maybe not even as a Big Ten championship contender. But is it worth a little nibble at 33-1? And do you think that they have, if we don't love Ohio State and we don't love Oregon and we don't love Michigan, maybe that opens the door for a team to step up like this? Should we be buying into Illinois?
And a game that I played for another show, thumbs up or thumbs down.
No,
I am not sold on this team. Yes, you said it. They're bringing back everybody. But sometimes you can get someone from the transfer portal that's much better than the person you are bringing back. You're bringing back the same team last year. Did they go anywhere last year? Not really. So I mean
they won 10 games last year. They went 10-3 last year. Like, they were good. Let's see. They lost at Penn State, lost at Oregon. Those were 2 of their 3 losses. Were to 2 of the best teams.
I'm not sold on them.
Beat everybody else.
I'm actually gonna buy. I haven't done it yet. So thank you for reminding me. I'm probably gonna bet exact wins on them. I'm probably either gonna do 7 and 8.
Wow. So you see them potentially losing 5 regular season games. I don't know if you have
their head coach is a bomb.
I don't know if you have the schedule in front of you, but I don't know if I see 5 losses here. Like, they're at Duke. Okay, like, whatever, Duke.
That could be a scary game for them.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they're not, Illinois isn't the type that you can just expect them to roll over somebody, but they'll be favored in that game. I think they win that game. They have the game at Indiana, so I guess you're giving them a loss there.
Yep.
Even though you said you liked Indiana under, kind of a fulcrum game there. They get USC at home, tough game. Ohio State at home, tough game.
It's 3 tough games right there. You just mentioned 3 tough games.
Yeah, they have to go at Washington after a bye. And that's it, though. They get Rutgers, Maryland, Northwestern at home. They got to go to Wisconsin, which we don't know what Wisconsin is.
I think Maryland's going to be – their total season wins 4.5. I think they're going to be much better than what we saw on the offensive side of the ball. If they can run the ball, I think their offensive line's really, really good this year. I think Maryland can be one of those teams like, wow, I can't believe they lost to Maryland.
So, well, listen, I'm not going to call at Duke a tough game. Could they get upset? Yes, absolutely. But in terms of trying to figure this out, so we're looking at Indiana, USC, Ohio State, and at Washington as the only 4 games that they're not going to be favored, and they probably will be favored over USC, or will be close. So you're saying they lose all 4 of those games and maybe get upset somewhere else along the way?
I have them losing to Maryland.
Oh, okay. At home off a bye in mid-November.
Yep.
Maybe I'm a little higher on Illinois than you are. I'm not
I'm
buying
not.
all the playoff hype. I'm not
They're
buying
minus $2 on 8.5.
Oh, sure, I get it. But I'm just saying, looking at their schedule, I really only have 4 losable games, and they get USC and Ohio State at home, where they can be a little bit tricky. I think that they're a little better than Indiana right now, honestly. So, I think that they can win that game on the road. That's why that game, that Illinois-Indiana game, and that's why, going back to what we were talking about on Ohio State, maybe instead of betting the season win total on either one of these two teams, maybe just save your money and say,
Oh, yeah, I agree.
I'm going to bet on that week 4 games because
the Indiana quarterback is a big key. If he's like last year's Indiana quarterback that came to a new team and was a stud, if Mendoza's a stud for Indiana, then I'm going to eat crow on what I just said about Indiana, and I think they crushed Illinois.
Yeah, I just think whoever wins that game, looking at both of their schedule, is probably going to beat their season win total. So maybe instead of playing that future, jump on that. So, all right, next team that we want to talk about, we're just going to go through some of these teams faster. We're not going to talk about Michigan State, Purdue, UCLA, Northwestern, Maryland. You already talked about Maryland, thought that they might be a little bit of a sleeper. I already talked about Michigan State, said that they might be a little bit better than people are expecting. The next team, though, we are going to talk about is Iowa. I love Iowa. 7.5 season win total, 33-1 to win the Big Ten. I don't love either one of those numbers. But Iowa is going to be a money team for me this year because they're tough. Defense, tough. Offensive line, which is a specialty, experience. I'm really, really intrigued by the quarterback that they brought in. Mark Gronowski, who was a starter at South Dakota State, put up huge numbers at the FCS level. Iowa doesn't have good quarterbacks. Iowa doesn't have good offense. They showed a little progress last year, but if this kid's the real deal and they do have a quarterback, watch out. And the thing about Iowa is that they play everybody. Okay, they're at Iowa State in week 2. Iowa State, one of the teams near the top of the Big 12. At Wisconsin off a bye. At USC. At Nebraska. They host Indiana, Penn State, Oregon. They are going to beat one of those 3 teams. Like outright beat either Penn State, Oregon, or Indiana, if not 2 of them. So what are your thoughts on Iowa this year?
Looking at ATS, not straight up wins. Yeah. I think they'll be covering machines because you just said it. And if the South Dakota quarterback can play, weather's not going to be an issue for him. Normally, some of these quarterbacks who play in weather and go into different style of fields or not, it doesn't get weather at all. They kind of struggle. This guy he played in South Dakota State. He knows how to play in weather. Iowa win is not going to bother this kid whatsoever. Even if he's an 80% quarterback, he's better than whatever Iowa's had the past 5-6 years. So if this guy plays, man, I feel sorry for all those teams you mentioned because we might be saying, wow, this team is legit. 7.5 plus money on over. If I release season totals on the site. This one could be one of those ones that I would have over 7.5 plus money.
I'm definitely buying into the over. I don't love it as much as like the Michigan under and some of the other ones, but the next team we're going to talk about is Nebraska, and a big thing that people talk about is like the Matt Rule year 3 trend. Okay, well, if we're talking trends, let's look at Iowa. Every other year, they have won 10 games over the last 6 years. They did it in 2019. Yep. They did it in 2021. They did it in 2023. I think that Kirk Ferentz is an unbelievable coach. 27th year, amazing
so underrated.
Guy, so underrated, such great consistency. I think that this year's team, if Gronowski can make that step and gives them a legitimate quarterback, which they haven't had in forever, then this could be his next 10-win team. So
I agree.
Buy into Iowa, people. Okay, do we buy into Nebraska? Again, right there with Iowa, 7.5 for the win total, 33-1 to win the conference. Year 3 of Matt Rule, I gotta say it because we're like legally bound to say it. That in year 3 at Temple he went 10-4, and in year 3 at Baylor he went 11-3. So obviously year 3 in Nebraska he's going to win 10 or 11 games this year, right? Because that's totally how it works. What do you think about Nebraska? Are they a realistic contender?
the real big question mark for me at Nebraska, because I think the money that came in on the over in total season wins was the Matt Rule rule. I mean, year three, you mentioned all the stuff he did at Temple, all the stuff he did, everything else. I think that's why the money came in on 7.5. Did the team, their quarterback, and their style of play and their schedule tell me to bet the over in 7.5? Not really. So this is one of the ones I'm gonna wait to see how they go. Either I'm gonna fade them after their third game, or I'm gonna bet with them after third game. Their first 3 games are huge for me.
I mean, like, Nebraska's been a team that's supposed to be back for
It's a
like
90.
5 straight years, right? Like, I don't have it in front of me what they've done against their season win totals, but I have to imagine that they're on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8-year losing streak against their season win totals. So why should we expect this year to be any different? Now, that being said, this is almost unbelievable. Over the last 4 years, they have 23 losses by 1 score. By 1 score. 23 losses in 4 years. They are 5-23 over the last 4 seasons in 1-score games. At a certain point, Raphael, that just almost accidentally has to correct itself, right?
Yeah. A fumble, you fall down, you get a first down instead of losing something that's a ridiculous. That's a great stat. That's a ridiculous stat.
Well, and it depends on how much you love Dylan Raiola, right? Like, one of the top prospects coming in, started as a freshman, now he's a sophomore. Can he make the leap? And not for nothing, but is he a guy that we're going to be talking about a year from now as being a potential top 10 pick in the NFL? If he is that guy, then he will get Nebraska over this season win total. And again, I kind of like them going over. I feel like I'm getting pinned against the public here a little bit, so I don't love that. But looking at their schedule, they don't play a true road game until October 11th. They only play 2 road games before November 7th. Okay, so that's for starters. And I look at losable games. Like, I think the key game is that opening week game against Cincinnati. Cincinnati's not a pushover. It's on a neutral site. That's going to be a tough game. Nebraska doesn't get the benefit of the doubt. They host Michigan State. They got to go to Minnesota. Okay, that's tricky. Minnesota can get people. They get USC at home. They go to Penn State. And they get Iowa at home. So they got 6 games that they could potentially lose. If they lose 5 of them, you're beat. If they lose 4 of them, you still cash this ticket. So over or under for you on Nebraska?
I would probably look at the over because what you said, their true road game is pretty much you're trick-or-treating while you're watching the next game that they're playing. They don't play any road games. They leave. They're sleeping in their own dorms, rooms, wherever they're at, all the way to the middle of October. So I think that's why I would probably lean towards the over. But that Iowa game, hosting Iowa can win that game pretty easily.
Yes. Yeah, Iowa's good, man. Okay, real quickly, Minnesota 7.5. They're 10,000 to 1 to win the Big Ten. You like Minnesota over or under?
No, I'm looking towards the under. Every team that's now less like this, like all the other teams, I'm looking towards the under. I think Minnesota, they're rowing the boat is going backwards.
I love PJ Fleck, man. They've won 8 or more games in 3 of the last 4 years. They were 10-3 against the spread. Unfortunately, I don't think that they have a replacement for Max Brosmer at quarterback, and I think that will hurt them. The last team I want to give any type of in-depth talk about is Washington. Also season win total, so 7.5, 60 to 1. They're not going to win the Big Ten, but what are your thoughts on Washington? Big Ten team, but Pac-12 team. Are they being a little bit overlooked?
I think they are getting a little overlooked. It's going to be very interesting what their against the spread record is going to be. I could see them going 7, 8 wins. I don't see them peaking up to 9. I don't see them dropping to 5 wins. But I think they could cover games where you're going to be looking at where we're going to be talking next year. Like, wow, they covered against this game. They played well on the road against this game. So I can see them covering games. They're going to be much improved. And I think they're the team that had trouble traveling last year. I thought that their adjustments weren't up to like USC's and Oregon's and stuff like that. I thought Washington had some travel issues last year.
This was a team that actually overperformed my expectations last year. It was just 2 years ago that they were in the national championship game. They went 14-1. Then everybody left. They brought in Jed Fish from Arizona. They had a mass exodus of players graduating, going to the NFL or transferring out. I thought that they were like a 3-9 type team last year, a 3-8 type team. They won 6 games, went to a bowl game. almost beat Louisville in that bowl game to
Yeah.
get a winning record. So maybe Jedd Fisch is a little better than I thought. But the name to remember is Damone Williams. Okay, he's the guy. He started the last 2.5. He came in the second half of the UCLA game, I think it was. Started the last 2 games, put up huge numbers. Really exciting quarterback out in Washington. If this guy's a stud, then this might be one of my favorite, if not my favorite, win total in the Big Ten with them going over. They have a much easier schedule this year. Another name to remember is Ryan Walter, former coach at Purdue. He's now the defensive coordinator at Washington. The guy knows defense. Like, Purdue stunk while he was there, but they would put up a fight. If he can get their defense back to where it was in the championship season. Again, the reason I like this team, the schedule. Colorado State, UC Davis, at Washington State, who's terrible this year. They host Ohio State. Okay, that's a loss. Maryland, Rutgers, at Michigan. Illinois, they get at home. They get Oregon at home. I think they're going to upset either Illinois or Oregon. I think they're going to say
that Illinois game is going to be huge for total season wins if you like the over.
Yep, I'm not sold on Michigan enough to pencil that in a win. I think they only have about 5 losable games, and they would have to lose all of them to not clear this number. Where I just said it. I think they're going to get 1 or 2 upsets this year. They're kind of like Iowa for me. Do I think they're going to factor or be up there in the Big Ten championship race? No, but they're going to have a big say in who wins the Big Ten because they're going to drop some upsets along the way. So am I nuts to like them over?
No, because you just nailed it. I mean, I think they can. That Michigan game doesn't scare me. Some of their big road home games doesn't really scare me. They can pull the wool under someone and get the W.
Okay, last team to mention, and we're just going to mention them because this is bad, and because we're a Wisconsin-based company, and I got to do this for Max and Wade. Wisconsin season win total 5.5. They're 15,000 to 1 to win the Big Ten, which they're obviously not going to do. One of the most difficult schedules in the country. Is there any hope for them getting to a bowl game?
No hope. Sorry, guys. If you're watching this, no. Wisconsin's starting to remind me of Nebraska. I think Nebraska's stock is going upwards. But I mean, we used to make fun of them years past. I mean, they still think they're stuck in the 90s. Nebraska's stuck in the 90s. This Wisconsin team, I just don't see any improvement coming anytime soon.
What's the juice on this under right now?
The lowest you can get, I think it's minus 150. Yeah, minus 150.
This is a bet. This has got to be an under bet. Well, I'm not going to go through the whole schedule, but their only layups are Miami of Ohio, Middle Tennessee, and Maryland. So we give them 3 wins there. Which
even the Middle Tennessee game is going to be tough for them.
But we'll give Camp Randall its due there. But let's give them that win. So that's 3. To get over, they would have to win 3 of the following games. At Alabama.
Nope.
At Michigan.
Nope.
Against Iowa. In between, and at Michigan against Ohio State sandwich. They have to play Iowa. No. They're not going to beat Ohio State at home. Then after they just played at Michigan, Iowa, Ohio State, guess what? You get to go to Oregon. That's 4 weeks in a row. With no bye in between, they play those games. They come home and they host Washington, who we already talked about, as if they're not going to be exhausted. Then they get to go to Indiana. They get that very good Illinois team at home. And then by this point, the season may be over. Luke Fickell may already be fired if they're already out of bowl contention. And then the finale is at Minnesota. And again, those last 3 games at Indiana, Illinois, at Minnesota. 2 of them are on the road. They'll be underdogs in at least 2 of the 3. But by that point, as I mentioned, the players might already be looking to transfer. The coaches may already be looking for new jobs. I think that this has the potential to be a full-blown train wreck for Wisconsin. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt and say they pull 1 or 2 of those upsets and maybe get to 5. There's no way in hell they are winning 6 games and getting to a bowl game, correct?
I got them 4 or 5 wins, and I'm leaning more 4 wins.
Okay, that's going to wrap us up with the Big Ten. We will be back next week, probably with the SEC. Raphael, before you go, which one of these would you say is your favorite play, over or under?
Ooh, I would probably say, man, what did I just say? Was it not Nebraska? Can't remember. It was plus money. Can't remember. Oh, it was Iowa.
Okay.
Iowa plus
Iowa
over.
over. I'm going to say Wisconsin under. So those are your 2 free plays from us. That is it for this week. Thank you for checking in with What Are the Odds. We'll be back again next Friday. In the meantime, carpe diem and good luck.